You're listening to Ridiculously Happy Ppl. I'm Sophia Levin, a small-town photographer, and I want to know how to live ridiculously happy. So I'm asking the best people I can find to help me answer that question. In this episode, I'm talking with Victoria from Vectoria Creative about looking for work-life balance, leaving her full-time career, and launching her freelance graphic design company. Before we talk to Victoria, I want to invite you to grab your free copy of the Go Brand Yourself workbook. Follow the link in the show notes and use the workbook to create brand content that speaks to who you are on the inside instead of what anyone thinks you should look like on the outside. And now, let's talk to Victoria. Hey, Victoria, how's it going?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Can't complain too much. I'm really excited because yesterday I started launching all my branding. I don't know if you happen to notice that.
I have. Of course I have. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Is it because I tagged you in everything?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't not see it, but no, it just makes me so excited when, you know, you launch it out in the world, and like, I've already complimented you a million times, and I'm like, I've given you like all the pieces and you're doing such a good job with everything, and it's just so impressive, and it just makes me so proud.
Well, you made it really easy for me to put stuff together, which makes me happy because it makes my life easier. But before we get into like any of that stuff, you should probably let us know who you are.
What are we talking about here? Who are you? What?
Yeah, before people are like, wait a minute, slow down. Who is she?
Let's rewind a little.
Who the heck are you, Victoria? And what the heck do you do?
My name is Victoria, but everybody calls me Vicky, so we can go by Vicky moving forward. So I'm a graphic designer, and I run my own business. It's called Vectoria Creative, and I can explain that some other time down the road here. But my name is Victoria, but my business is Vectoria Creative. So basically, I'm a freelance graphic designer. I really specialize in logos and websites, but I do basically anything graphic related. So, you know, a lot of social media work lately, like templates, working in Canva, banners, brochures, everything, you name it. But like my primary focus is logos and websites. And yeah, I mostly serve like smaller businesses and startups. I like to kind of pitch myself as the middleman between Fiverr and like an agency. So you're not going to be like spending very little, not knowing what you're going to get, but you're also not going to get like a huge surprise bill at the end. I'm that middle girl, and you kind of, what you see is what you get with me. What you see on my social media, what you see on your website is actually all done by me. I'm a one-person team. So yeah, I really like to highlight that fact because a lot of the time, you know, you could hire an agency, you're not really knowing who you're working with. So yeah, that's kind of what I like to pitch myself onto my clients, is that middle ground solution, which tends to work really well for small businesses and people who are just starting out.
I would agree, because I think it would be super important to have a dialogue with the person who's making your branding. If your business is like your thing, like if I owned Coca-Cola, I probably wouldn't care so much about who I was working with. But as someone who's like, my brand means something to me, I want to work with someone who gets it. And by the way, you did my branding recently and you flippin' nailed it.
Thank you. I did. Yeah. So that was all the chitter chatter at the beginning. Yes, I did Sophia's branding, which is pretty cool because I'm pretty sure this is probably like the first episode. I even like was on your podcast this morning and I saw like the new cover art there and I was like, yes. Oh, that's awesome.
But no new episodes with the new branding yet, but it's on the podcast.
Yes.
It's
so
exciting.
My cover art will be the first.
Well, I'm not sure. You might not be the first to come out, but yeah.
Oh, true. I guess you probably have some like pre-recorded that are waiting in the lineup. Fine. I'll allow it.
A little bit of a backlog.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
But you know what happened is because you and I started working together, and almost immediately I was so excited. I was like, I don't want to do anything. I had to stop doing like everything because I was like, I just want to use the new branding. So I have to wait until it's done. So I like sprinkled out a couple of things where I was like, just wait. It's coming. There's stuff coming. And then,
I saw that.
Why don't you give us an idea of why you started? What got you into
for sure. Kind of a funny little background story, which I posted about this on Threads once, and it was actually hilarious how much of like a universal experience this was for like millennial designers, like specifically. But I like to say I got my start on Neopets. I don't know if you're familiar with Neopets, but basically it was a game in like the early 2000s, and you had the ability to like customize your profile page, your pet page, and like you couldn't just like click buttons and like do it. You had to like get into the HTML, change like the hex codes, the colors, change fonts. So like I just wanted to have the best page ever, and I'm like, I don't know, I guess I'm a competitive person. I just wanted it to look amazing. So I really like dug in and got into it. And yeah, so that was kind of like my first like hand at graphic design. I always joke, like, I mean, in all seriousness, that's not, I don't know. I just like to say that's my beginning. But then like enter, when I was like 14, MySpace was around, and like same idea. Like you could totally customize your page, you could add music. So I really got into it there, used what I learned on Neopets, brought it over there. And then around that time, my brother had installed a bootlegged copy of Photoshop on like our family desktop that we all shared. And he was just showing me like how he played around with it and whatever. And I was like, okay, this is amazing. Like I really wanted to, try it myself. So I started like editing my photos and my selfies and whatever, and putting those on MySpace. And that actually led to me and my best friend at the time starting a business. I use that loosely because it was, what we call like a photo editing business. So we'd ask our friends to send us pictures and we'd edit them. It was all for free. I mean, it wasn't like a real business. Funny little side note, the business name was Bitter Taste Graphics.
Okay, this is hysterical. Okay. Wait, we have to come back to this. Okay, go on.
Yeah. Former emo kid here, if you haven't picked up on that yet. So yeah, Bitter Taste Graphics. That did not work out. So anyways, by that point in my life, I clearly knew that I liked taking something and making it look nicer, like same, like from the Neopets to the MySpace to the photo editing, like it was just like brought me a lot of joy. So high school rolled around, there was a graphic design class. I was like, sign me up. I did that. I don't even think it was called graphic design. I don't even know what it was called, but basically we worked in Photoshop and we did some layouts and I like did so well in that class. It was the highest mark I ever got. My teacher like really recommended me to like think about a career in this way. And I was like, okay. I didn't even know like graphic design was a job at that point. Like I had no idea. But then my like high school boyfriend had an older brother and he was taking a graphic design program. So then I kind of learned about it from him and I was like, oh, there's like an actual like career path here. So yeah, basically, so a little aside, my dad always told me like, not everyone is going to love the job they do in life. So sometimes you just have to pick something and, do it and just find your joys in other places in life. And I just didn't like subscribe to that. I was like, I don't want that for myself. Like, I know if I'm going to be doing something for the next 40 years, like, I'm just the kind of person that needs to like it. Like, in high school, I had like 5 different jobs because I was just so fed up. Like, I went from Tim Hortons to A&W to the grocery store because I was just like, I don't like any of these things. So I knew, like, if I was going to pick something I had to do for life, it had to be something I liked. So that's kind of when graphic design, like, clicked for me. I was like, well, he's doing it. And he went to the same college that I went to. And then I was like, I just kind of went all in on it since I was like, had so much like little experiences that kind of brought me to that point. And then I just enrolled in a program. I went to Durham College. It was like a 3-year graphic design program. The first 2 years were just like all in class. And then we did like an internship. And yeah, since then I kind of worked around in a few jobs and found myself freelancing the last year.
Awesome. I like it. Okay.
Yeah, that was a lot.
I have so many things to say.
Okay.
I'm like listing everything you said was just like nostalgia for me.
I know. That's
fine. So you're talking about Neopets and I'm like, what about MySpace? Like,
yeah.
That's awesome and hysterical. Okay. Bitter Taste Graphics. That's funny because when I was taking photos back in the day, my domain address way back was Acquired Taste.
Stop.
I'm not even kidding. I should have like tried to find a picture of the logo in air quotes that I was using, but it was a lemon with like leaves coming out of it. And then there was a bite out of it. So it kind of like looked like the Apple logo, except that
my gosh.
the lemon plus the thing and the bite out of it, it looked like a pig. Looked like a
And
pig's
supplying
head.
pigs, yeah.
But anyway, unrelated to anything.
Yeah, no,
I
that's
just
so
thought that
funny.
was neat.
Bitter taste versus acquired taste. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'll have to dig up a photo. I definitely have one of my old edits somewhere. I went on like, I don't know if you remember Photo Bucket, but like it was
Yeah.
like a photo sharing app, maybe. I don't really remember,
Yeah.
but I found my old one and had a few of my edited graphics we had done, and they're quite hysterical. So maybe I'll send you some to look at and laugh at with me.
I still have Flickr, a couple of Flickr accounts, which I cannot access at this point.
Oh no. Yeah. Those emails are long gone.
I don't even know what they were. I do not remember what my email address was when I was a kid.
Oh, I'll never forget my first email. It was so emo. It was Giving Back Sunday because I don't know. There's like a band called Taking Back Sunday.
Yeah.
So I just like flipped in. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so clever.
That's not too bad though. That's like not even embarrassing. It could be worse.
It could be. I've seen some bad ones.
It's true.
Funny enough, I still have access to that one. I've held on.
This is why I can't get into mine, because I don't know what they are. I don't know what my old stuff is. Let's get into the branding stuff, because again, you really nailed it with my stuff. And like, graphic design is not an easy thing. So when I was in university, actually, so I went high school, college, university, and I was such a nerd. I was working with Adobe stuff like when I was in high school, right? And then through college and through university. When I went to university, I took a graphic design class, and I was shocked that there was a practical graphic design class in university, but still there was. It was very rudimentary. Anyway, I would do the assignments and give them to our professor, and the professor would be like, okay, you're advanced.
Wow.
So you probably shouldn't be taking this class, but cool, here's an A. Okay, so there's that. I can do things like I can like adjust like key points and stuff in Illustrator, but I cannot take this and put it there. You know, what's inside my head is not going to come out and look the same. So
yeah.
How do you do that?
Oh my gosh, to put it into words. Well, a lot of practice, honestly. I've been at this for 10 years, and I look back even just 5 years ago at some of my work, and I don't want to say mortified, but I'm like, it's very like rudimentary and basic. Yeah. Like, you know, that like one of the rules, I don't want to say rules, but something everyone encourages, like say you're doing like a veterinary logo, like don't just put the dog up. And like, that's not a knock on anyone who does that. It's just like usually what the first thing that comes to your mind is. So I've always taken that like notion and just tried to, I don't know, flip it, like show things in more of like a subtle or like more just like hint at it. So yeah, I've kind of come up with like a process myself of like just the steps that I go through every time. And like a lot of the things that we did together, basically just starting with like a questionnaire and really learning about like the business and like seeing if anything specific stands out. Like, and like all the questions I asked you are like, you know, they're with intention, like even down to like the tone of your brand. You really like highlighted that it's fun and happy. So like for me, like that I can associate that with like a type of font. Like it's not just going to be the stark font. Like that's why we want like a little bouncy look. Like there's certain things that like can trigger certain emotions. So I really just go through your answers. I look a lot at like what's being done and what's working well and what's not working well. Not to say like you copy, but it's easy to go out and grab inspiration from other businesses and just see like, why is this logo standing out to me? What makes it good? And then, yeah, it's just a lot of like sketching, getting all the bad ideas out first. So like a hard lesson I've learned is don't just have an idea and start on your computer and start working on it, because you're going to waste a lot of time. Like you've played around in Illustrator. It's not like this quick thing. Like, so I always sketch like endlessly on paper. I make like word maps. I take two words. I sometimes try and connect them, try and merge ideas. And you know, it's weird because something always just like clicks, you know? And like every time I start a project, I get like a little nervous. I'm like, what if that like click doesn't happen this time? But, you know, just following and staying true to your process and taking the steps that I've always taken to get to that answer. It's just been working out for me. But yeah, I mean, there has been like a couple projects in the past where like we're just not like aligned. And like I liked that you trusted in like my process. But not everybody does. Everybody, like some people do want to have more of a say, and they kind of just want you to do what's in their head instead of trusting that you're like the professional and, you know, you have a process that you're following. You've been doing this for a while. So yeah, it's nice when you find that client that allows you that freedom to be creative and come up with those ideas and try things that are different. And yeah, and then there's the collaboration side of things, right? Like I sent you two options and you had some feedback and like I was like, wow, that's actually so smart. Like even with like the lemon, I just had it straight. And you're like, what if you made it like a little bit more like quirky and tilted? I'm like, see, I didn't think of that, but just like that subtle suggestion, I was like, oh, that like took the logo from here to here. So yeah, just like to answer your question, I've been kind of rambling on, but like a set of process, being inspired, and just really collaborating with the client.
Well, and holy moly, I imagine working with the right person is important. It's funny because like I had followed you on Instagram, and so I don't think I even realized how close we were geographically. But I started following you. I was like, shit, her stuff is really cute.
Oh,
and also you were very entertaining. Like you did put one reel out where you like backed out of your office. Like there's something was wrong and it was just you backing out of your office. I'm like, yes. I like that sense of humor. So like that's how I picked you to work with.
Mm-hmm.
You find that a lot of people are like picking you maybe and not smartly. Because like you really have to be on the same page as your graphic designer, otherwise it's gonna go like horribly wrong.
100%. And I have learned to say no. Like back in the day, I was yes, yes, yes. Like I was just so grateful that somebody wanted to work with me. But there really is that evaluation of like, are we going to be a fit? Because like I don't want to do anyone a disservice. Like if you're wanting me to do one thing and I want to do the other, like I don't feel good just being like, I don't know, a pixel pusher is what they call it. So I do find just like having like that presence on social media and building that personal brand has helped me because like even you just said like you connected with me as a person and also my work. So like that was your trigger that like, okay, like she seems like somebody I would trust with my project. So I think just doing those things like really helps, I don't know, find your ideal client. So I have been getting less and less of like and like to be frank, the people who reach out like just from my website are usually like the worst leads. Like I don't actually get a lot of good qualified leads from my website. It's always been referrals, just someone having a good experience with me or somebody who's found me on social media. They've been following me a while. They saw my work. They saw my personality shine through and they're like, yeah, like this seems like a good person to work with. So just having that in place, I feel like has weeded out a lot of those like, bad fits, I would say. But yeah, there have been some projects that I can think of definitely off the in the past where I'm just like, just get it done off my plate. Like it's not something I'm going to be proud to share in my portfolio, but you know, I was committed at that point and I really was just being bossed around and doing what they wanted. And sometimes that's what some people want. And there's, you know, there's designers out there who are happy to do that. But yeah, I just think as I grew, I just realized that it really is about you know, interviewing each other, making sure it is a good fit, because at the end of the day, that's how you're going to get the best result.
Mm-hmm. Your previous job, were you working for an agency?
No, I actually never got to work at an agency, which is kind of like a shame. I really wish I would have known what it was like to do that. And I lived in Toronto for, I'm going to say 4 or 5 years, and I was surrounded by agencies, but I really, really loved the job that I worked at while I was in Toronto. It was, I was basically like an in-house designer for a corporation. It was like a very, a sports company, and I'm a sporty gal. So like, it was a really good fit. And like, there's a lot of perks with the job. Like we basically worked above like, rinks. So like on lunch, I could go down and go for a skate and there'd be like pickup hockey. And it was just like a dream job for me. And I really had a hard time letting it go. And then once I moved back up, because I'm from the Aurelia area, so I ended up moving back to Barrie and there's just less options here. So I just mainly, I worked in-house as a corporate designer for basically all 3 of like my big jobs. Yeah, my last job, I was working at CFB Borden. So just working for like the personal support programs and doing like, I basically made like a printed newspaper every single week for almost like 4 years. And then COVID killed our newspaper. Then we had to move it all online. So then, I ended up building like a WordPress website for them and a newsletter. So we did like the whole shift. And yeah, it was getting harder and harder to keep a printed paper alive in this era. So it had its time, but it was sad. But yeah, that's what I had been doing for like the past 5 years before I had my little girl. then after about a year and a half of maternity leave, we had her in daycare. I went back to work for about 4 months and I was like, I can't do this. Like it was so hard, like just getting back into that routine and dropping her off in those really long days and getting home at like 5:30 and she's sick a lot and like it almost got to be like embarrassing for me for like how much work I had to miss and time I had to take off or calls to leave the office to go and get her. And I was just like, I really needed better balance in my life. So that's kind of like the big push I had to just do what I had always dreamt of, which was being a freelancer and really just working for myself.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of sad that it was embarrassing that she was sick a lot.
I know I shouldn't have said embarrassing, but it did feel that way because like, I don't know, you're supposed to be there 5 days a week and I can only come like 1 or 2, or like she's off for like an entire week. They won't let her back. And like, I'm working from home, but like, how good can you really work from home with like a 2-year-old there? Like, it was just, it felt embarrassing, but it's life. Like, what can you really do? There was no other option. So, and like I have to say, like my boss was super chill about it. Like he never ever made me feel guilty or bad about it, but it was just like my internal guilt.
That's nice to hear because I know that like that can happen. You're missing too much work conversations, like that sort of thing, which I think is like sort of devalues the importance of parenting.
Yeah,
which is a necessary job.
Yeah, no, so I am super thankful that, it wasn't that weirdness at that job, but it was the push I needed to just do what I had always wanted to do, and I'm glad. Yeah.
Yeah, like, what was that transition like? So how long were you there again before you were like, F this, I'm going home?
I was there for 5 years, so it was a really long time. I mean, one of the years I was on maternity leave, but I had been picking up freelance, just like side gigs, like basically for the past 8 years, I want to say, like a logo here and a little something there. And then it was actually, I started doing consistent work for a real estate team in Barrie. So it was like a monthly commitment that I was doing. After securing that, it kind of gave me the confidence of knowing, like, I know for sure this is coming in every month. And then I started getting more and more logos and the referrals started piling up. And it just got to the point where like something had to give. Like I couldn't keep working full time and doing this at night and raising my kids. So I kind of finally hit that precipice where I was like, let's just do this. I basically like said to my husband that, give me 6 months. If I, if all else fails, I'll just go find a job again. But I really wanted just to really commit to it. And within like 3 months, I knew like that it was working. And, I put it out there to my network that this is what I'm doing. And like, it's one of those things that was kind of cool. Like I put it out to the world and the world like just really answered. And like immediately I was super booked up for the first 3 months. And then I kept waiting for like the lull and the slow period. I wouldn't say waiting, but I just kept expecting that to happen and it just never did. So I was pretty proud of myself and my decision to actually just go for it because it's almost been like a year and a half now. And life's good.
And at what point did you come up with your brand? Which now we're going to have to explain Vectoria.
Yeah, I'll get into that. So first off, credit to my brother. He came up with the name. He actually so my brother's a computer programmer, so he is all in the techie web space. And one day he just literally sent me a random email. I was like, oh, I thought of this last night, Vectoria. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's genius. I'm like, I'm using that. And it was only when I was kind of sharing my work online, like I wasn't like promoting my freelance. So I will say I've been using this name for about 6 or 7 years. Because like I just wanted to start sharing my work online and having it under like a brand. So I started using that. And then like I'll kind of explain what it means because a lot of people think my name is Vectoria. And it's kind of like, I should have thought of this because like my clients aren't expected to know that. It's other designers who would understand like that term. So a vector is a type of file that you create in like Illustrator. So like every logo, you should be getting a vector file. If you're not, red flag. So Vectoria, thought it was pretty clever. But then I've kind of learned to like spin it in a way that by the time we're done working together, it usually clicks for them because like I'm packaging out their logo files or whatever. And I'm like, here's your vector files. This is what a vector is. Send this to your printer. And they're like, oh, vector. Okay, I get it now. And the light bulb goes off. So like, that's always a cool moment. So now I'm just kind of, I even have like a little blurb on my website. It's like, why vector, not or Vectoria, not, yeah, whatever.
I saw that. I was like, that's smart to put it out there. Like, yeah, I like it.
So that's how I came up with it. So yeah, shout out to my brother Ryan. He came up with it. Full credit there. But I know sometimes I do consider like switching it, but I feel like I'm just in too deep at this point. I don't want to rebrand and like lose any of that momentum I've built, and it's working. Like worst things that's happened is someone's called me Vectoria, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Like I'll politely correct them later on. Like it's not a big deal.
Or you could go by Vecky.
Oh my gosh, someone has actually called me that before as a joke. It's actually was like a family joke, like, hey Becky. I'm like, oh, okay. Oh yeah, no, well, I've heard it all.
I think you should do what you want, but I think Vectoria Creative is genius.
Yeah, no, I'm rolling with it. I've got merch made, like I've got this light behind me, like we cannot change it.
I love the crown too, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I was pretty proud of that like idea because Queen Victoria, like it all kind of ties together. Yeah.
I had a feeling. I like it.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad. Thank you.
So when it comes to like building a brand for someone and you're asking them all of these questions and like even taking yours into consideration, how are you like weaving together all of the pieces that people are giving you? And how often do people call you an artist? Because you're taking like physical words, written down words.
I know what you mean.
Are words physical? I don't know.
Sure, they can be. Let's make them.
Well, the Seawood sign in Collingwood is physical.
That's true. Yeah.
But like, how do you take the words and like make them into like things?
Honestly, a lot of trial and error, but like there are, like I was like kind of explaining earlier, like colors have meanings, like fonts give off feelings. So like I really just try and lean into that. And then finding something like personal about the person and like having that shine through as well. Like for you, it was like, I was like, your last name is Lemon. That's amazing. Like we are putting a lemon in your logo. Is that okay? Like I know your old logo already had one, but like, I just feel like without your name in it, there's still like that connection. So honestly, a lot of it is just like writing down like a lot of words, word association, coming up with like what colors do those words make me feel. Like yours was super easy because like bright and fun and, you know, inclusive. So like immediately like every bright and fun rainbow color came to mind. But then like a lot of the time I get like more like earthy brands or like people who are like more spiritual. And then like, I don't know, like and it's just from a lot of like observing of what's been done. But like when like things just kind of click in my head that I'm like, oh, like immediately I know like we're going to go this palette or and like to be quite honest, a lot of it is being inspired. And I said this earlier, but it's true. It's like, as sad as it is to say, nothing is really that original anymore. At some point it's been done. So it's like, how can you do it uniquely for that industry? And making sure like it's unique, industry specific kind of thing. And yeah, it's just trial and error practice, inspiration, and just like connecting those dots. And then a lot of like the personal branding really has to come from like within. So like I gave you the pieces and now I'm going to like watch you shine with them, like through the way that you put together the post and the way you write your posts and like the quirkiness and like all those little things. Like that's not going to be me. Like that's going to come from you. I just gave you like the beautiful visuals and yeah, you're gonna help those shine through like your personality and what you do with them. Yeah. And I'm already seeing that, which is awesome. You're always blowing me away. Even like the podcast cover art you made, even like using those little emojis and like cutting them off. Like I was like, girl, okay, take my job.
I did the emojis because they're so freaking cute. I'm putting them on everything. I'm like,
can you believe I almost threw them away? I was like, are these working? Like, so you know when you look at something for too long and you're like, I don't know if these look good. I'm glad I kept them in and you love them because now that I'm seeing them in use, I'm like, oh,
They're so
Yeah.
good. Yeah. I know I get that with words though a lot when I'm like looking at a word for too long and all of a sudden it's like, what does that word even, is that how it's
Mhm.
spelled? I had that with the word
Yes.
with the other day, just WITH. I wrote it
Oh
down
my
and I was
gosh.
like, no, that doesn't look right.
Oh my gosh, I know exactly what you mean. And then you're like, thank God for Google, because why is my brain not braining?
I'm surprised that when you go and you type into Google, there isn't like an automated, like suggested, like string of text that's like, is this how you actually spell? And then insert the blank.
Yeah. You know it's
Anyway.
bad when you put it into Google and Google's like, what? Like you're typing it out, it won't even autocorrect, and you're like, I'm so far off. They like nobody can help me here.
It's a
I've had that. I
disaster.
forget what word it was. I was like, oh, corduroy. I was trying to spell the word corduroy. Like that is a tricky word. I was putting it in. I'm like, is it a Q? It was bad.
I don't know how to spell that off the top of my head. I would have to.
I looked it up the other day. I still have no idea. Starts with a C, though. I can tell you that.
We have a place to start with Google.
Yeah.
So, like,
Oh,
for
that's
me,
funny.
graphics are like brain mush. Like, I really don't know how people do them, which is hysterical because I can take like all of the graphics that you gave me, for example, and do things with them. But if I were to create them in the first place, it would be like just nah. So my brain just doesn't function that way. And I'm super blown away by the art part of it that people can like put these things together. I wonder what has influenced that in your life. Because like you're in a position where like you have some quiet time. Maybe you're listening to music or something, but you're not talking to people and you're focusing and like making an abstract concept a visual thing.
Mhm.
Do you have any
Yeah.
idea what's influenced that in your life? Because that's like some hyper focus right there.
It's weird because, like, I wouldn't consider myself like a very artsy person, which is
Yeah,
surprising
me
that I
either.
ended up in this career. Like, growing up, like, I'd be drawing. Like, I always liked drawing, but I would get so frustrated. And then I'd see other, like, classmates put, like, busting out these amazing drawings. And I was like, that's not me. But, like, I think creativity is more than just like art and
Yeah.
drawing. And, like, it's for me, it's like problem solving. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
am like a big problem solver. Like I hate when people throw up their hands and like, oh, like I can't do this, blah, blah, blah. Like I immediately jump into like, okay, what can we do? We could try this and blah, blah, blah. So like I think that's a big part of design because like once you've solved that problems, it's just connecting it with the visuals. So I was just like always that person that just wouldn't let, I don't know. I don't know. There's always a solution to everything, and I'm going to find it and I'm going to look at it 100 different ways until I do. Cause like it's more frustrating to me to not be able to like do something and just, have to accept it. So I don't know how that like comes into play, but like, yeah, I've always like liked working with my hands and like I experimented with some like watercoloring and like I really like to read and I think that could be like a whole ideas things. Like I'm also like a big ideas person. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where it comes from, but like probably goes hand in hand with like the problem solving and the creativity. But yeah, like one thing I really did learn is creativity is not just like visuals, it's not just art. It's just like how your brain works and how it comes up with solutions to things. So I really think that's helped me because with the help of a computer, like you can actually create anything your mind can think of. Like with these programs, like
Oh yeah.
referencing a visual and making it something new, like you actually don't need to know how to draw. And I actually have a video about that on my page, just showing you like you can find like a stock image that you can reference, like you have legal right to do whatever you want with that. So like trace over it if it's a photo or like adapt from it. So like just being resourceful is another big one too. And
Mm-hmm.
just like pulling all of those things together, like having a great idea, being resourceful and knowing your tools, like knowing really how to use Illustrator to bring that idea to life. Because yeah, it's like it's a very common thing that like designers don't know how to draw. And it's like, then how did you end up in this career? I'm like, I honestly don't know. Just like Neopets. I don't know. I can't tell you. But here we are and it's working. But yeah, I saw like another fellow creative. He posted like something just about that the other day. He's like, one thing like I'm embarrassed to admit, like I cannot pick up a pen and a paper and sketch. And I'm like, same, like I say I start every project with sketching, but like if I showed you my sketchbook, you'd be like, how did you go from this to like this? But it's like just getting that idea out.
Yeah,
And as long as I know what like I'm trying to make sense of on this piece of paper, like I can bring that onto my computer. Like Illustrator has the power to bring anything to life. So
it
I
does.
don't even remember your original question, but I hope that answered it.
What do you think some of what are some like challenges that you've had? You've been talking and I just imposter syndrome popped into my head at one point with what you've been saying. And with creativity specifically, like I've had that question before. I had a job interview at one point where the boss was like obviously trying to get me to say that I was creative, but it's not really something that you think about yourself. If you are creative, it's sort of just a natural way of being. I agree with the creative problem solving stuff though. Because a lot of the time solving a problem, like it's a problem, you didn't expect it to be there. So you have to think about how you're going to solve it. So I get that one. But what are some like other challenges that you find popping up in your life?
Yeah, in terms of like career-wise, I feel like a big one is like comparing myself to other people because like you can get on social media and you just see people and you're like, they are way better than me. Like I will never be that good, but I really have to reel myself and just remind myself that like I am good at what I'm good at and I can't be good at everything. And like sometimes I'm looking at like an illustrator and they're like busting out like this amazing drawing and I just like get down on myself that I'm like, I'm never going to be that for my clients. But I also think it's important to just show what you are good at so people are hiring you for the right reasons, right? Like I don't have all these illustrative things on my page, so hopefully I'm not attracting that kind of client. But it's really hard not to compare like where you're at in your career and like in the like era of people being very honest about like their numbers and how much money they're making. You know, I'm doing a 10K, 20K month and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, how? Like, how are all these people doing this? And just really reminding myself that like I am in the very early stages of what I'm doing and I quit my job and I've been sustaining myself for a year and a half and just to be really proud of the fact that I am doing that and I'm doing the damn thing that I've always wanted to do and just quit comparing myself because everybody's at a different stage and everybody has their own skills. And just like bring me back down to reality because it's working what I'm doing. And I like can't really even think of like a client that like I've had that just was like hated what I did. Like I always am really like serving my clients in like a really good way when we're all happy at the end of the project. So yeah, that's one biggie is definitely, I don't know, comparing myself. But another one is one like I've talked a lot about with you is just feeling confident in like my voice. I just like see and hear other people talking and like posting videos on social media. And like I was listening to other like your podcast, like I listened to a few episodes obviously and just like, you know, getting ready for this and just curious about what it's about. And I'm like, everybody is so like eloquently spoken and like they can like form a coherent thought and like they don't mispronounce words. And I was like, my friend and I were hanging out the other night and I just like couldn't get my words right. And she's like the kind of girl just poking fun at me, which I love that we can laugh at each other. But then I was just like, why can't I just like speak how I want? Like I have the thoughts, they're there. They just like don't flow out. So like, I find that has held me back a lot. Like just in like putting myself out there online or like, I always wanted to like do a YouTube channel, like more educational pieces, but I'm like, who would want to listen to me? But like, I really need to get in. And that is definitely something I am still working on. Cause like, even just talking with you now, I'm like, I don't think I'm doing so bad, but like just learning to say yes and doing it anyways, as much as it scares you, just like, you're not going to get better hiding from that. So yeah, that's just another one is just kind of like being more confident in my voice and that I am like a professional. I do know what I'm talking about and not being afraid to just say or speak wrong or not be able to form the right sentence and just going with it. Yeah, that's a biggie for me. It always has been.
This is a thing that I'm seeing a lot in my life. Just it seems to be all around me, people talking about using their voice or being afraid to use their voice or whatever for whatever reason. So, and there's two cases. Like I'm talking to a lot of women who are talking about using their voice. A lot of these people are like singers or public speakers or whatever. And like I just did an interview for the podcast with Stephanie Keiko Kong, and I'm going to share her Instagram with you. And you're going to go watch a whole bunch of her stuff because she's just fantastic and you'll like her. Just the way that she explains like picking a topic to speak about. Like it does not need to be complicated. You do not need to go and do like all the research and stuff. It's like talk about it. Just say everything that you know about it. Just blurt it all out kind of thing. And I'm like, oh shit, like if I did that about a topic that I actually know about and I just blurted everything out that I know about it, I could probably actually come up with a talk that's like an hour long if I really wanted to, right? But we don't. A lot of us don't.
Yeah,
and then
we hold ourselves back. Yeah.
Yes. And the reels thing, like recording yourself talking to a camera. Like some people are really great with that. They'll record like in their driver's seat themselves talking about something, and they'll just talk for 5 minutes and it's fantastic. And I would flub my words and get all flustered and have to cut it and everything. So it's very entertaining. But have you noticed that those people are like fumbling over their words here and there and stopping and restarting and like all of that? Like you see that, right? And like still you're like, I don't know. I'm afraid. I'm like, yeah. You should see me try to record myself doing video. I stay there for like 30 minutes doing nothing, like waiting for words to come out of my mouth. And it doesn't
I just get so frustrated. And then I'm like, I like take out, like, I'm so embarrassed by my camera roll after. Cause like I open it, it's my head, like in a million little shots. And I'm like, what one's the right one? Like, I know I said one part here pretty good, but like, yeah, like I know what you mean. Like people who just like off the cuff, pull out their camera in their car, they're talking, they are like tripping over their words, but for some reason, like when I see somebody else do it, I'm like, oh, like it's so natural for them. They just exude this confidence. But like when when it happens to me, I'm like beating myself up over it. But like, I don't know. But like some days too, I feel like I'm just on like, and then some days I'm not. And it is so weird because I'm like, sometimes I'll watch like old videos of myself and I'm like, who is that person? Like, that's me. Like, I don't ever remember being able to speak that like professionally and nicely to a camera. And then like, I'm trying to replicate that and I just can't, but I'm like, I know I've done that before. So it's like, it's one of those things like, yeah, you just have to keep doing it and doing it. Like with this podcast, I'm sure like the first few episodes you did, you were probably pretty nervous. And now I don't know how many episodes in you are, but I'm sure it's like, you probably don't even think too hard about it before you start and you just go. But maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. But you seem like very naturally confident. And just practicing and getting out of your own way is like a huge, huge lesson I really need to learn. And it's something I'm still learning.
Yeah. And I'm trying to learn that whole like just being myself thing, which seems to help. Because apparently when you are yourself, I don't know, it's easier to just, you know, like I had a podcast years and years ago and it was some of the feedback was that my voice changed like speed and volume on a regular basis. So I thought about it. I'm like, yes, it does. And I don't give a shit. So I've just continued doing it.
That is a common feedback I get. I either yell when I'm talking or I'm too quiet or I talk really fast. And I find sometimes like I might listen to this back and be like, oh my gosh, I was talking really fast. But I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I have a lot to say and I don't know if the person cares that much. So I'm like trying to speak quickly to get it all out and done and over with. Like, I think that's what my brain is thinking, but I have big issues with volume control too. I was like sitting with my friend the other day. We were like on her front porch and I was telling a story and she's like, Vicky, like you're yelling, like my neighbors, they're going to be like hearing all this. I'm like, I'm yelling? She's like, quiet down. But, like, I was so oblivious to that. I'm like, I just thought I was talking, but like, I think it's like passion coming out or excitement. Yeah. Like when I'm telling like a fun, cool story, I'm like yelling about it. So she like literally was like, you have to quiet down. Like you're probably disturbing my neighbors. I'm like, oh, sorry. It's like so unaware of it, but
that's funny. That is entertaining.
Yeah. I have to laugh at myself.
It's funny that you bring this up because I have had this similar experience with photos, specifically, like a lot of people hate having their photo taken. And the way I've like learned to like tell people, well, like go back and look at your photos multiple times is from me having my photo taken over and over and over again. You know, like I'd have a folder after folder after folder of photos of myself. And I'd look at it at first and have some photos that I liked and then most of them that I hated. And then like 2 months later, I could go back and look at the same folder of photos and be like, oh, actually, those ones that I hated before look pretty decent. So, you know,
100%. Like even getting back like my wedding photos, like the photographer put like a highlight category and like some of the photos she put in there, I was like, why did she pick that one as a highlight? Like that is not a highlight. But then like you said, like I kept, because like, it was the only photos I had, or we were waiting for the full album and I kept going back and then like suddenly I'm like, oh, that's actually a really beautiful picture. But it's just like, I totally relate to what you just said.
Maybe we just need to put out more reels of us talking.
Yeah, maybe we could clip a few from this.
Talking. The other time I've noticed that people are afraid to speak is these days, like with our cultural climate, people being afraid to say the wrong thing, which is sad.
100%. We definitely had a conversation about this.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, it is hard. And I mean, it's not hard, but like you mentioned to me before, it's like just acknowledging if you did make a mistake and just changing your language. It doesn't have to be this big thing. As long as you're like willing to learn and do better moving forward, then there's no harm in making a mistake. Like nobody is perfect. And I think just really reminding yourself and remembering that, because we are human at the end of the day. And things, yeah.
There's also like, we can say something and have it offend someone else and like be empathetic, but not like change how we do things, which is a weird segue maybe to what you do with graphics, because like your graphics are not going to appeal to everyone, and that should be intentional. Like with mine, so we'll use mine as an example. There's a heck of a lot of rainbows in there, which is assigned to two groups of people. One, members of the LGBTQ community, and people who hate the LGBTQ community. And it's going to appeal to one of those groups and really not appeal to the other one. And hopefully it'll keep the other one from trying to book with me, because I'd just really rather not deal with that whatsoever. But like, not everyone's going to like what you have to say, because there's just too many people in the world. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
and not everyone's going to like a brand, which is good. Because not everyone can purchase Coca-Cola, or there would be no Coca-Cola left. So,
right. It's like exactly that. It's like, as long as it's speaking to who you're trying to attract, it doesn't matter if nobody will ever like the whole world will never like this logo in particular, right? Like, so as long as it's speaking and attracting to who you want it to, then we did our job. And yeah, that's super true. I had another thought and I was like, well, I forgot it.
Is it coming back to you?
No.
No.
It was something you said earlier, I was like patiently waiting. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna bring it up. No, I forgot. Anyways, we'll move on. If it comes back to me, I'll say it.
Back eventually, I'm sure. What do you do for fun outside of work? Because I assume you have fun doing your work sometimes.
Yeah, honestly, I am so lucky that I didn't listen to my dad all those years ago and just take a job, because like I love my job. I don't care if it's a long weekend and I get an extra day off. I'm like, I worked on Monday because I'm like, I just don't mind working. I love that I can wake up every day and like enjoy what I do. And not a lot of people can say that. So I'm so glad that I pushed for this career in life. But yeah, I do have fun outside of work, but I also have fun at work. But yeah, a little about me. I am like a sporty girl. So I've played a lot of sports growing up. I was a big rugby player. I played hockey for a long time. I've kind of retired those two. I'm hoping to get back into hockey, but locally, there's just not a lot of like women's leagues, so I'm trying to look for one. If anyone knows one, let me know. But yeah, recently I played soccer and I do baseball in the summer. Outside of sports, I'm a big reader. I was the kid that read Harry Potter at 10 and made it my entire personality. And then that has segued into just like my love for books. I'm finally diving into A Court of Thorn and Roses series that like you hear that you hear everybody talking about. I'm like, I felt so left out, so I just borrowed it from my friend recently. I love a lot of like crime and like mystery books and thrillers and fantasy. I basically read everything. What else? Oh, and I love my guilty pleasures, reality TV. I love like Big Brother, like dating shows like Bachelor, Bachelorette, any of those Netflix series like Too Hot to Handle. Love that. I like tried to like self-assess why I love reality TV so much. I think it's I just don't have enough drama in my own life. So it's just like so like opposite of me that it's like I can't look away. Like it's you get that fixed without it having to disrupt your own life. So yeah, I've been watching Big Brother for like as long as I can remember. Like my mom and I used to watch it when I was little, and then now they have like a Canadian version. And I actually applied for the show for like 4 years in a row. And they didn't put me on, so I gave up on that dream. I decided eventually, I'm like, do I really want 3 months of my life online or on TV? I'm like, let's let that dream die.
I was gonna say you might be
That,
too like normal for
yeah, and like you have to do like diary room entries where you speak to a camera, and we just had a whole discussion about how we can't speak to a camera. So one
yeah.
little test shot of that, they'll be like, "Oh, sorry, girl, you should have practiced your reels more." Yeah, and I also like really love like camping and outdoors, like living where we live, like Wasaga, Collingwood area. There's just so much to do outside. I used to be like a big snowboarder, and I was telling you about that.
Yeah.
Need to get back into it, but hopefully I'll convince my daughter to start snowboarding soon when she's old enough, and that will get me back on the hills. But yeah, a lot of variety of different things.
That's awesome. You mentioned reading, and you've mentioned it a couple times, and both times I've thought maybe this is where the creativity thing comes from, like reading. Like you have to imagine everything, right? Like it's not literally playing out for you. You are the creative for the imagery
Yeah,
inside of your head.
could be. I've never honestly thought about it like that. And like even just reading about like fantasy worlds and things that don't exist, and like, yeah, and
Mhm.
like you said, putting that visual, because like that's why I love when like a book gets turned into a movie, because that, or like a
Yes.
show, and I'm like trying to see like, was it like how I was picturing it? Never is, but
Yeah, like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was not at all what I pictured in my head.
I read the book. There's a movie about it,
Oh yeah.
or oh,
Yeah. They've made one
I'm
movie
behind.
about the first book. It's good.
Yeah.
It's very funny, but not what I
Huh, I
expected.
never knew that. I read that one so long ago. I really hardly remember it, but that's
It's good.
interesting.
It's good. Excellent.
Love it.
So what are you doing in your business right now? And what are you planning?
Yeah, right now I'm just like kind of in that period of growth and really kind of, I want to say like fine tuning like my services, and like I started off kind of offering everything to everyone.
Yeah.
And just like over time, you kind of realize like you can't be that. I cut off, like I used to promote like social media and like
Mhm.
management and things like that. I've just completely removed that off my website. I don't really
Yeah.
promote that anymore. Like I'm happy to help people like set up like templates in Canva, like what I did for you, just to help them get started. But
Mhm.
I realized like the management side of things and like scheduling and planning, like it just took a lot. It took away from what I actually really
Yeah.
enjoy doing, which was logos and web design. So yeah, really like right now my focus is just like getting really good clients and being in a position where I can be more selective with who I work with, so that I can really just do more of what I love. Because I mean, I am still in the early days, so I do find myself having to take on like projects that like I genuinely like. I don't want to say I don't like, but they're more like production or like smaller things that eat up your time, where I rather just have like a couple big logos and a couple websites to work on over across. But like, you got to start somewhere. So I'm just trying to be mindful of that. But yeah, right now I'm just really trying to work my network and grow my client base, and just like get more like reoccurring work from my current clients. And so far it's going pretty well. Yeah, I've been really busy, which is amazing. And I'm super appreciative of like, yeah, just like making connections in the community and doing like little things like that BNI meeting that I'm going to be joining you at,
Yeah.
and joining, I joined my chamber, and I have an online community of like other designers that I meet with. Every other week we do like an accountability hub, and we just basically chat about what we're working on. We show each other like our projects, we get feedback. We'll even like go over like our proposals and pitches, and just like really fine tune it together. So it's nice to have that, because it
Yeah.
is very like isolating working by yourself in your little home
Mhm.
office, and like not having that interaction day to day, something I do really kind of miss about the office. So
Yeah.
yeah, having that group that I meet with, and just like a community of other online creatives that are kind of like in the same like space as me, and have the same struggles of just like that isolation. Yeah, so that's like kind of like where I'm at right now.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Does your daughter stay home with you through the day sometimes?
No. Well, when she's sick, but like otherwise I
Yeah.
would not. She's a very needy age where she's like, she just turned 3. So like she's at the stage where if I'm like talking on the phone with somebody else, that's when she has everything to say. So it's like, if I'm giving attention to my computer, like
Yeah.
it's not going to happen. Like I've tried like on days when she's homesick, and I'm like, I have to stand and work on my counter so she can't like reach it. And I'm just like, it's
Oh
really
yeah.
hard to get things done. So Yeah, no, she goes to daycare 5 days a week. And
Yeah.
but the beauty of this job is sometimes, now that it's summer, I just won't work on a Friday and we'll go to the beach, or we'll take a day off in the middle of the week and just take advantage of the fact that I did build this life around having the flexibility that this job provides, which is like the ultimate goal here is, yeah, having like, yeah, not working that strict 9 to 5. If I did take a Wednesday off and I need to work a Saturday morning, that's
Yeah.
fine. Or if I want to head up to the cottage, then just bring my laptop if I need to. Just having that is like, I'm still getting used to it because I spent 10 years working 9 to 5, driving to an office like 5 days a week. So it's still like surreal that like this is the life that I was able to like build. And yeah, especially just having a little one, yeah,
The
nothing
amount of
compares. Yeah.
time that you lose when you're working full time in an office is like
Especially if you have a commute. Like Borden was
yeah.
30 minutes each way. So like you did lose an hour every day of your job. And it was funny because
Jeez.
like I worked on a computer there. I was all doing graphic design, and we worked remote for the whole COVID year. But then as soon as everything opened back up, it was like, oh, we're back in the office 5 days a week. And I was like, but didn't we just show you that we could do this from home for 5 days a week? Like, give me something. So then eventually they're like, okay, you can have one day at home.
Jeez.
And I was like, oh, thank you. One day. Wow. Settle down. Like, no, I shouldn't bash them. It was a really good job for me. But yeah, I just didn't like how, and it was government. So they do like, it was basically like, if everybody can't, then you can't type thing. So it was like, we worked with accountants and stuff, and they were like stuck in the office. So it was about fairness and like who I wasn't going to argue with them. So I took my one day that I could. And yeah, I don't think they were surprised that I took this route after like 4 months of coming back. And they're like, yeah.
I am genuinely surprised though that so many like office spaces had their people come back to the office spaces. Because you think it would have just saved money and time by not having them come back to the office.
Right. And like just like having proved ourselves over those years, like really we didn't like miss a beat. Like everything continued on as it should. Like nobody was slacking. Like it was more like more trust in your employees because you had to be like work and performance based. Like if you weren't doing your job, like even my boss did say, like if you're not on from like 9 to 5, like that's fine. If you want to do like like an adapted schedule, just like get your work done. Like if something needs to be done, you have to get it done. And like that's how it should be, in my opinion. Like we don't need to monitor somebody for their 8 hours and make sure every minute of that hour like they're working. Just like what needs to be done and is it getting done well? And like that's kind of like the system we ended up working to. But yeah, it was funny that we did end up going back in full time. But yeah, that was the push that I needed to just be like, no, I'm gonna build my own life around like this career that I chose. And I'm really glad that, because yeah, it was scary. Like the whole, like I had a mentor once tell me like, because I was always like, well, it was really nice to get like that consistent paycheck and knowing like how much money I'm going to make. And like, that was my whole hesitancy. Cause like he was trying to encourage me to do it. And he's like, you can be fired tomorrow. And I was like, oh, actually, it's true. Yeah. Like, and that's what happened with COVID. We had a department of like 7 people. And then within a month, there was me and my boss left. So like, I was like the last man standing. So it was very true. Like, and I never really thought about that way. Like I thought I had all this job security, but at the end of the day, like one, catastrophic world event happens and you can lose your job, or, something even minor could happen and like they're restructuring or your position's gone. So he's like, this is like a false sense of job security that you're feeling. But like if you are freelancing, like you are like, I don't know, you're creating your fate. So that's kind of how he like painted it for me. And I was like, you know what? I actually never really thought about it that way. And it's true. So like I like the fact that like the work that I put in is like the output that I receive, right? Like if I am lazy and I don't do anything, then I'm not going to succeed. So that was one thing I always struggled with working in an office. It's like I could work so hard and I could do the best job ever, but I'm going to make the same paycheck I make. And if there's no role for me to move in, this is just my life. This is where I'll always be. So I just like, I hated that. I couldn't get over that, cause I'm the like keener, like I was always doing a really good job. I'd always like, if I had no work, I'd find the extra work. I'd go above and beyond. And it was just like, other than like a pat on the back, like that's it. That's what you got. Yeah. So that's what I love about this life is like the work you put in is what you get out of it. So yeah, it's been awesome.
I like that. That is really good. It's true. Very interesting. Yeah. I'm going to be thinking on that later.
Yeah.
Gonna have a good think about what you just said. So,
I'm glad I can make you think.
Do you have a ridiculously happy moment for today?
Actually, I did think of one, yes. This might sound super cheesy, but I was telling you, like, I like to play sports, and I was recently playing soccer. I somehow ended up being like keeper, like the goalie for our team. I went in once and I did a good job, and then eventually I just found myself in net every game because we didn't have like an official goalie. So basically for the rest of the season, I was playing in net, and then yeah, we ended up making it to the championship, used loosely in our our rec league. But anyways, it was the final game. It was for first place. I'm in net. It's tied 1-1 and it goes into a shootout.
No, no.
So I'm like standing in net, like so nervous because like a little backstory, like 10 years ago, I found myself in the exact same position. I was the goalie. It was a shootout in the finals and we lost. So I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to happen again. But anyways, obviously the story has a happy ending because we won in a shootout. And honestly, I can't remember the last time I felt that proud and happy. Like my team like all ran up to me and we cheered, and it was just like such a happy, fun moment. And some people might laugh at it because it's just women's rec soccer, but I felt great.
Hey, I got punched.
I felt like a hero. What?
I got punched in the eye once playing soccer, and it was like gym class in high school. So that's like
on purpose?
No, by accident.
Oh, okay. Oh, phew.
Slapped me in the eye. But that's what I'm saying. Like, soccer is a physical sport, people. So respect. And also, playing goalie, you have to have some sort of confidence to do that because, like, I watch them and, like, the ball goes this way, the goalie goes this way. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
All
no,
right.
It's so, like, every game I would be driving there with, like, a pit in my stomach because, like, I know it's not all my fault, but, like, it feels like it's all your fault when you're in net, right? Yeah. Like, the ball goes in, everyone's like, come on. Like, but, like, my team was so gracious. Like, they always were like, it had to get past all of us to get to you. So like, there was never any like fault or whatever.
Good point.
Yes, but I still didn't. It's still like at the beginning of every game, I'm standing in the net, like feeling like sick to my stomach. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's not that serious, Vicky. Like, get over it. And then as the game goes on, I'm good. But yeah, no, that was a ridiculously happy moment for me.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Well, thanks.
My ridiculously happy moment, I've told you about this, it will have to be when I was working on my test site and I clicked the publish button or whatever it is, and everything worked properly and nothing broke. So I didn't have to go and redo my work. Oh,
that's amazing. What a relief.
I know. I thought I was going to click that button and everything was going to break because that's just how that stuff works.
It's so nerve-wracking working on a website, especially when it's like a live website. Like, so you're like, what if someone's on here immediately and they see like, and then like sometimes if there is a problem, you're like, you have to jump into problem-solving mode, and it's not usually like that obvious sometimes, right?
Yes, it is. It's very stressful, but it went perfectly. So yay!
That's awesome.
It looks so good. The branding stuff looks.
It does. It looks amazing. It makes me so proud. You don't even know, just seeing you roll it out. It's like, because it doesn't always go that way. Like, you're creative yourself, like, and I just know, like, you obviously you took a graphic design class. You never told me that. It's all starting to add up now.
I am not a graphic designer. Not a graphic designer.
Some people just don't have it. Like, and that's not a knock on them. Like, I went to school and we started with about 90 students and 30 of us graduated because like they really do a good job of like weeding out people that like just, I don't know, they just don't have that special touch. I don't know what to call it, but it's not for everybody. So like even just to have like the basics and like the principles and just know like how to put something together, even though I gave you the pieces, like it still looks nice because like it doesn't always go that way. Like I have clients that like I've given them all those pieces and it's still like it's fine. Like it looks branded, but like, you come up with really creative solutions and just how you're using everything. And it just like, makes me so proud.
It's been fun. I'm kind of like so far, like looking at it as like a sticker collection kind of thing. Cause that's sort of how it's like turning out, which I think is like so cute.
Oh my God. You need to get the smileys printed on stickers and just like put them on things.
I'm going to. They are going
awesome.
to stickers at some point.
Oh, I love it. I love that you love them
so much. So where can people find you and all of your work?
Yeah, so I share a lot more of my recent work on my social media, so Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. It's all under the same name, Vectoria Creative. And then I also have a website, which is just vectoria.ca. So that's Vectoria, not Victoria, just to clarify that again, because it is confusing. Yeah, so mostly just social media, my website. I think that's about it. Yeah, I do a little bit of blogging, not like anything too serious. Like usually one every 3 months, one might show up on my website. But yeah, I will say that I'm the best at updating my Instagram with like my most recent work. So if you want to see my newer stuff, you can definitely check me out there.
And they're fun to watch because you can see like the sketching and everything beforehand. I love it when you do those videos.
I know, and yours is next. I'm like, now that I was waiting for you to kind of put like the pieces out so that I could like show it off. So yeah,
excited.
yours is coming.
Oh
yours
my God.
is coming.
I'm excited.
I know. Yeah, so I was waiting for you to like launch your logo, but now I see it on your website and I've seen it everywhere. So I feel like that's my permission to go.
Yes.
Okay,
You have my
cool.
So everyone go and look at Victoria's Instagram so that you can see progression of my logo.
Yeah.
Well,
Cool.
thanks for recording with me, Victoria.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for pushing me out of my comfort zone to do this. It was not as nerve-wracking or as hard as I thought it would be. And I'm glad I just said yes because you made me feel very comfortable. So thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks to Victoria from Vectoria Creative. Find and follow her via the links in the show notes. And of course, thank you for listening. If you have a story you want to share, find the links in the show notes to nominate yourself as a guest or record your ridiculous or happy story to be shared on a future episode. Now that we've reached the end of our time together, I have a small favor to ask you. Help me build this ridiculously happy community. Subscribe, like, rate, review, and share the show with your favorite people. I'm Sophia Lemon, and I photograph ridiculously happy people. You can connect with me at sophialemon.com and at Ridiculously Happy People on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and basically everywhere else. But remember that people is spelled PPL. And of course, remember to grab your free copy of the Go Brand Yourself workbook from the link in the show notes. It will help you connect with your ideal customers. Thanks again to Vectoria Creative for my cover art. And here's your weekly reminder that life's ridiculous, but there's always something to smile about, like next week's episode. See you then.